award fans, the 81st Golden Globes are now officially over just minutes ago. But the big question is, are the Globes back? And I'm here with my colleagues, Joyce Eng and Chris Rosen. I'm Tom O'Neill. We're the Gold Derby gang. And these are the two Gold Derby sluggers here that everybody keeps saying they love so much and have become a trademark at our side. So here we go. I'm going to release the lions here. Joyce, you go first. Are the Globes back as a show?
Yeah, I mean, I would say they've been back since last year, but now they're really, really back. Because I mean, last year, you know, the question was like, will people show up? And of course they did, and now even more so. So yeah, I think they've made strides, obviously, to reform and revamp, and I think the industry is ready to re-embrace them and also want to re-embrace them. So I think, tonight as an entity, things went well for it. The show itself started off very rough with Joe Coy, and saw very little of him as the night went on.
I thought he was very endearing. What did you think, Chris? Talking about the host of the.
I've seen better hosts, Tom. I have to say, to put it diplomatically, I would say. But it was a tough room, as everyone who got up there on stage said. And like Joyce was saying, I was kind of blown away how many massive stars were there that I didn't even realize. Like at the end, I was like, oh look, there's Harrison Ford. I mean, I know like 1923 was nominated and stuff, but I was like, man, Harrison Ford is there. Steven Spielberg is there, obviously, for Color Purple. Every time they showed someone from the crowd, I was like, oh man, there's another massive famous person who didn't even win and was just there. And I thought that was like really
they are so back.
I would say. Yeah, that was like so back. Yeah. I felt that was like really so back. Everyone was there.
Like literally last year was a trial run, and now we're so back.
It helps that all the movies are massive movies with like huge stars this year, and every show is like a huge like A-lister on these shows. So that also helps that the nominees were so strong. But yeah, I was like pretty happy with how the attendance was well attended, I guess I would say.
The star wattage is something we've never seen. And you're saying, and you're so right, Chris. I mean, everybody was a superstar in that room. And we've got to give a shout out to, let's just frame up what we're talking about to some viewers who may not know. The Golden Globes have been kicked off off mainstream TV now and then, going back to 1982, I think was the Pia Zadora scandal, and that was the last time they were on CBS. NBC carried them ever since. Tonight was its triumphant return to CBS, but also it was its triumphant return as an awards organization that has been besieged and with scandal after scandals. Twice, I believe, in the 1990s, they were pulled off TV again, or was it the 80s? And no, those 90s. And so the test will this emerge as a legitimate TV show? It just smacked of favoritism and accusations of bribes, and the fact that in 2023, the LA Times revealed that there wasn't even one Black person among the less than 100 people who wield this much power as voters, as Golden Globe voters. The whole organization no longer exists. The Hollywood Foreign Press Association has been dissolved as a unit. The show has now been absorbed as a property of Dick Clark Productions, which has produced it for many years. The owner, in full disclosure, of Dick Clark Productions is our employer, Jay Penske, and the Ever investment fund is our partner. And this took guts to say, all right, we can bring the Globes back. They've been poo-pooed for years as an award for sale, etc. So everything about it was on the line. Can they return to their glory days? And could they clean up their house? And could they be real gold again? And I was dazzled tonight. Even the set decoration was fantastic. It was pure gold how they went throughout throughout the show. They took the stage and they jutted it out into the room. And as Chris was saying, it was just wherever you looked, it was a superstar. And it was so well produced. Wow, just bravo to everybody. But having said that, it also kind of looks like we've just seen next week's Emmys and next month's Oscars all in one show tonight. Do you agree with that?
Well, with the Emmys, they finished voting in August, so those are done. But that's not going to impact anything. It might impact the results might impact the Critics' Choice Awards because they're still voting, and that's on Sunday. But I think you will probably see a lot of the same Emmy winners. Maybe not all of the Succession acting wins, but or maybe not even like the Bear winning series. Maybe Ted can still win series at the Emmys. The Oscars, I think Oppenheimer still ahead in 1-5 tonight. That's the most wins by a film since La La Land won 7 for 7. So it's looking good. Barbie underperformed I'm not going to count the box office win because that's not real. So it just won song. So that's just one win. Yeah.
Chris, any surprises for you?
I mean, I would say for me, I did not do as well as Joyce in my picks. Joyce had perfect score in TV, so that was good for her there. Just dominating.
Hey, bravo.
Did you or did you not switch to Elizabeth Debicki because of me?
I switched to Elizabeth Debicki literally because of you. No, I did, and that's why. But I still messed up because I had Chris Rock instead of Ricky Gervais, and I switched in the last minute to Pedro Pascal instead of Kieran Culkin because I thought maybe they would vault split.
How could you do that to Roman?
I don't know. But in the film side, I was nothing really surprised me. And Oppenheimer winning was, I think, pretty much expected. The one I would say for Oscars, I love seeing Anatomy of a Fall win screenplay, and I actually think now that Barbie is an adapted. I think Anatomy of a Fall could win, even though everybody kind of went to the Holdovers right after as like either had it in first for the whole time or had it runner up. But I think Anatomy of a Fall, everything is pointing towards that maybe winning because I think people just really love that movie. The response to the movie in the room seemed like really great. Everyone loves Justine Triet, and like I could just see that winning and getting overperforming with nominations too. Maybe Sandra Huller certainly, but like editing, I think it could get in, and picture obviously, and maybe even directing. Now, Joyce, you had her in for a long time. I don't know if you still do.
I had her in for a long time, and I dropped her a couple of weeks ago, and then I wanted to put her back in last week, but I didn't. And I put Jonathan Glazer in. I dropped my other person I've had in since basically March, Alexander Payne.
Yeah. I think that she could get an over Glazer, and that movie will do.
Listen, there's been a Cannes representative in the director lineup for the past 5 years. So it's either one of them or maybe both of them. So.
It could be both, and then Greta maybe misses, right? Or it would be the other one because it feels like Yorgos Lanthimos and Martin Scorsese and Christopher Nolan are all set. I love seeing Oppenheimer. I love seeing Cillian Murphy win, even though I had Bradley Cooper predicted, but I was like all in on Cillian Murphy winning. I thought that was great.
Did you see that shot of Bradley, as Cillian was walking by, and then there was this brief momentary cut to Bradley, and then
also after Cillian's speech too.
Yeah, tough. It was a tough beat.
That's what I mean. That moment actually.
Yeah, that was tough.
It was just Bradley just saying, okay, I get it. I give up. I'm going to be a good sport about this race.
There was a couple of moments that Jeffrey Wright had that too. Sadly, after Paul Giamatti won, he had like okay, well, sure, but yeah, for Bradley, I definitely this was a tough loss, and I guess we'll hope. I mean, he could definitely still win SAG or Critics' Choice, but I feel like Critics' Choice will rubber stamp these wins here next week when they do it. I mean, would you agree?
I feel like all of the I feel like we saw the 4 acting winners tonight.
Yeah.
Cillian, Lily, Gladstone, RDJ, and Davine, of course.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
I was kind of like what I thought. I was predicting Lily, but I felt like under the old Globes, like with the Asia PA with like 90 members, like Sandra Huller could have won. Like Isabelle Huppert style, but with 300 people now, it's too much consensus. And then Anatomy had won 2 awards. I'm like, I don't think it's going to win a third,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
God, it was fascinating. We should just confess that this up till now, we've all been just shooting bullets in the dark in terms of making these predictions, and now all of a sudden everything seems obvious. Well, actually, in the last few weeks, I think everything started to appear more and more obvious to all of us, as you saw a growing consensus among the experts at Gold Derby, and I think we were right in certainly most of the races, but in a way, it's great to see these winners, and we still have a few open races like Best Actress. Sarah Holo could go all the way. I mean, anything could happen there. Lily Gladstone has been redeemed. Everyone assumed she was going to go supporting, and here she went lead. She had the guts to do it, and she got that Golden Globe for Best Actress. Good for her. And she handled herself with class and style, and by invoking that Native American language, I thought was a nice touch too. She went on and on too long, but other than that,
I thought like almost all the speeches tonight were great. Like, I can't really think of a bad speech tonight. So, but yeah, like with Lily, I think she's just gonna sweep. Because like people just want her to win. She's like the person people want to root for this season, and that will be Killer's win. Like, it could lose everything else, and that would be its one win.
Yeah, I could see that happening for sure. And Emma is great, and I thought her speech was really great. But I just don't think that. I guess I'll be curious to see what happens at SAG when they're actually, assuming they both get nominated, which we would obviously assume. I'll be curious to see what happens at SAG, but I even think at SAG that Lily would probably have the edge.
Yeah.
So I don't know. And the other one, I guess if you were hoping Ryan Gosling was going to win, I'd say tonight was a tough loss, because he was perfectly positioned probably to win here at the Globes of any of these shows, and that he did not win. He didn't seem to really mind. He could not look like
he does not care
like
at
he
all.
had a great time.
He's the best.
But yeah, I was glad to see Downey win, but I was like unsure who was going to win going into that. I think we both had Downey predicted, obviously.
I think like both the male film acting categories or the drama lead one, at least, like they were coin flips, and they both went Oppie. So yeah, I don't know. And then like Da'Vine, obviously she's been dominating this whole season, so she's just gonna go all the way.
Do you think all the shows will put that supporting actress just first immediately? Oscars, SAG, and BAFTA, just every one of them will just put that first, like 801.
Just get it over with.
801, and here's the winner, Divine Troy Randolph.
I mean, they can. So, and I mean, the Oscars usually rotate, the one of the sporting categories first.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How about director, Joyce?
Kieran Culkin.
Oh, that's just Nolan.
Kieran
Culkin, one of the best speeches. It topped his Critics' Choice speech from 2 years ago. So, and he finally won for Succession.
Yeah,
he's the only cast member who's been nominated every season, so he finally won.
And he yells, "Suck it!" to Pedro in his acceptance speech.
Although it would have been fun to see Pedro Pascal accept a Globe with his arm in a cast.
Yeah, what do you think he got there? I assume Gladiator 2, right? He probably did.
Maybe, I don't know. Did he say anything on the carpet? Because Rosamund Pike, she had her headpiece because she got into a skiing accident over Christmas.
Oh wow, I didn't even see that. I saw the headpiece, but I did not see the skiing.
Yeah, that was the reason for it. Huh. And then obviously eldest son Alan Ruck, the car accident.
Yes.
So with the cane. Yeah.
Joyce, so having gone perfect score in TV, you went perfect score in TV. Are you just going to do this again for the Emmys? Obviously, the voting is not impacted, but are you just going to? How do you imagine the Emmys going after watching this?
Well, I don't. This has no impact on.
I know it has no impact, but I mean, just based on like what happened, does that help you clarify like what people were thinking back in August when they were voting?
No, because it's still different, and obviously Creative Arts was also this weekend. Tonight, simultaneously, night 2 of Creative Arts happened for the unscripted shows. But last night was the the scripted stuff, so they wouldn't conflict with the Globes. And Last of Us did really well, and Succession won nothing, as we expected. Our guy Nicholas Patel will never win an Emmy for his score. So, but it doesn't, like, I think Succession will still win series. I think it's still, but we've always said this, like, it's vulnerable in the lead acting categories, especially drama actor, and it could definitely win or lose directing because it has 3 episodes, and we know how vote splitty directing is.
Mm-hmm.
So, and obviously it was not going to win drama supporting actress because of Jennifer Coolidge.
Right.
But then like Beef, like that was obviously going to win limited series. The Bear won casting at the Creative Arts. So I've always had it second to Ted Lasso. So it's between the two of them. The Bear also did really well.
Mm-hmm.
So I think The Bear is stronger than Abbott Elementary last year, which also won casting last year, but it was mostly directing. But there's just more passion behind The Bear in general.
I like watching, like tonight when we were watching, like, so the Globes, I was like trying to gauge like how the enthusiasm was in the room for these shows. And I was like, The Bear, man, people really love The Bear. They just love it so much. And there was a real embrace of it, obviously, by the Globes and in the room. They seem to like really excited.
But like the Emmys are the people who love Ted Lasso the most. So I could still see them just giving it to Ted.
And it also won pretty at the Creative Arts. It won Sam Richardson, which was a surprise.
Yeah, it won Sam Richardson and Song.
Ed Sheeran is an Emmy winner now. Yeah, that's great.
So, but yeah, I don't know.
I was happy to see the TV winners of the Globes. I love seeing Beef win, and that was obviously because the Emmys are not until next week, or that was the first time we got to see them winning awards or like televised awards.
How many people do you think gave their Emmy speech tonight, like what they would have said had the Emmys been in September? Like Sunny, Lee Sung-jin, I was like, was he going to say that had the Emmys been in September? And what will he say next week?
Oh, that's a fascinating thought.
He's going to have to find a new one.
Like, he's thanking the road rage guy.
He's going to have to find a new one.
Yes, right.
New material.
Oh,
and also for Critics' Choice. So
yeah. I loved. What did you guys all think of the presenting duos? I thought that there were a lot of good ones.
Led Ray Romano and Carrie Russell host.
Ray Romano and Carrie Russell, Andra Day and Jean Baptiste, I thought were awesome.
Yeah, Kevin Costner, the funniest he's ever been.
Pretty good. I enjoyed that greatly. The only thing that I love America Ferrera, obviously, and I think she'll get an Oscar nomination, but I wish they would have had Regina Hall back. Didn't Regina Hall accept for him last year?
Iconic moment last year when she accepted on Kevin Costner's
that maybe
it could have really done it.
Yeah, that would have been really good. I thought that. I love them together, and Will Ferrell and Kristen Wiig. Just
but like
so
that's like old hat. They've done.
I know, but they're so good. It's old hat, but it's still such a good hat. They're so good.
Yeah, all the presenters were better than Joy or Joe Coy,
and they were really good. I thought the way they did it was like really good. I loved. I even loved. Who were was Dana Kaluuya?
The Spider-Verse,
right?
people.
The Spider-Verse people, and Haley Steinfeld doing the writing.
They were like this banter was written by
studio executives. Great. Not even an AI. They went like one further with the joke.
They're basically AI. So.
It was good. That was really good. I thought that was fun and kept the show moving well. So that was good.
It finished on time. It was just like, yeah. Oh, I love the Suits people. So
you like
I'm not here for any Suits
presentation.
Joyce is a big Suits fan.
I covered that show from the beginning when it premiered. So I'm here for Suits. Everyone is late on Suits. Like they're all on the bandwagon now because of Netflix. I've been there from the beginning. So
yes, I was too. And by the way, both of those guys gave us constant, especially Patrick, gave us video chats. First day of the show, I mean, they were just really generous with all kinds of their time. And those first few years, as Joyce is mentioning, and as they mentioned tonight on the show, it took them a while to be discovered and to be this ongoing. That show. So what are we going to see at SAG, huh? Any big surprises?
I don't really think so.
My one is just Dominic Sessa getting in for Holdovers. I think he can get nominated. And I'm not sure who he would knock out, though. Whether it's
You're talking
Defoe,
about
De
the
Niro.
teenage kid?
Yeah, the kid from Holdovers. I think will get
God,
nominated.
Defoe.
SAG.
Yeah.
But I don't know who he would miss. Who would miss?
Do you
That's
have
my
both
favorite
him and Charles
here.
Melton?
I do have both him and Charles Melton in now, but I don't think that's real. So I have to figure out what I want to do to make it right. I don't think that's right. So
I
think I have to give up on my
there's usually
Holdovers
like a
Best
SAG
Picture,
only
too.
nominee who goes nowhere. So I'm like, is there going to be one this year, or are some of these films just too strong? It's just going to carry some coattails, like, and then like they'll get in at the Oscars too, because I think like Dominic could get into Oscars too.
yeah, who's going to be the Adam Sandler and Hustle of this year's SAG Awards?
Yeah. I don't know. So I don't like. There's just a lot of contenders who don't feel like they would be like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't expect Sandra Huller to get in at SAG, but I think she's fine for the Oscars.
America Ferrara could be the one who gets in at SAG and misses the Oscars.
Yeah,
that would.
But I think she could also get in at Oscars.
I think she'll get in at the Oscars too, but maybe not. But I definitely can see that happening. The one other up, we didn't talk about this. I see somebody commented on this, guys. But the animated feature was an upset, I guess, for some.
Yeah, we talked about this last week, and I was gonna switch to today. So I don't think that's really an upset. Like, it makes sense for the Globes, especially with their new membership. You know, so, and like they've made these they've gone their own way before in the category, like even before the film, like when they gave it to Missing Link instead of Toy Story 4. So maybe it's also like sequel bias too with Spidey. So
yeah,
but I still don't know if Boy and the Heron will win the Oscar though, because the Oscars are lazier.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Like, they gave it to Toy Story 4, so, you know, when there were other options there.
Mm-hmm.
Were you moved specifically by any other acceptance speeches? Where did I just dropped my glasses? Oh, here they are. I agree with you, Joyce. All of these acceptance speeches were fantastic. Even when several times the stars were up there and just you could tell just were either had forgotten what they were going to say or they were overwhelmed by the moment and were dumbstruck and were just kind of fumbling around. But in each of those cases, they rescued themselves while in the middle of drowning, and it was fun to see. This is one of the reasons we love award shows, of course, is it's reality TV, and it's history too. It's this is going to be in the history books, and this is going to have a major impact on the Oscars, and the Oscars will have a major impact on what films people from the future looking back regard from our era. So this all has a cascading effect.
I liked most of the speeches. I mean, I'm trying to remember what I thought. Like Paul Giamatti's was like quite emotional. It was funny. Also really sweet. Like a lot of them were good. It was funny how the first two speeches, Dave Vine and Robert Downey Jr. like had literal speeches. And I was like, how many more people are gonna have a speech? But no one else did.
I really like Downey.
You know what,
that was a good speech. Yeah.
Do you know what I found kind of a little heartbreaking was Christopher Nolan's speech, where I mean he's just been passed over and over and over and over everywhere all the time. He's like the old Spielberg in the early days, you know, and that Spielberg couldn't get a break with the Oscars and over again was snubbed. And Christopher Nolan, there's certainly a good case to be made for that he should have won, had this awards honeymoon a lot earlier in his career. But look, it took Marty Scorsese a long time with The Departed, but when he acknowledged if I'm recalling his speech correctly, the number of times he's been in the room but not on the stage, and that's a little heartbreaking. You know what I mean? I remember him asking me once. This was the year of Dark Knight. There was a little press luncheon, and there were only like 7 or 8 of us journalists there. But he joined us all for lunch, and then had little private talks around the table. And when he came to me, he said, "Why don't I have an Oscar? Why do they hate me?" I remember Baz Luhrmann saying that basically to me the year of Moulin Rouge, where what got 8 nominations except for Baz, and etc. And in Baz's case, it was easy to explain to him why he was not nominated. Movies that campy and that outrageous aren't appreciated, unfortunately, as they should be. You know, Mommy Dearest is the biggest winner of all Razzies ever, I believe, and I think it's one of the greatest movies ever. And if you watch the DVD accompanying interviews of Mommy Dearest, you'll watch John Waters say that it's one of the greatest movies ever made. But anyway, I digress.
Yeah, but I think it's Nolan's time now, so I think he's good.
Yeah, I think he's safe for it now. He did not, if I'm right, I don't think he thanked his co-writers. But what I was glad to see is that there were so many times tonight. That my biggest beef about these award shows is they never thank the writer. The person is the most important on the movie. The stars don't, the directors don't, and I personally on my clipboard here make little selfish notes because my own little grudge, that I have. But there was generous mention of writers tonight, and I was happy to see that. That if we're going to celebrate these movies, let's do that to for the writers. And there's that old terrible joke from the 1950s, that says, "Oh no, I'm not going to say it again. It's just so politically incorrect." Moving on. I'm looking over my notes. Poor Ricky Gervais, he out of these award shows, he has often bad luck in not being there the year he wins, and then hosting, like the Emmys or the Globes or something when he loses, and the poor Ricky wasn't there tonight when he won. It's as if he was saying to himself, "Oh, the old Globes, the only ones still pining for the old Globes. They love to be, but they." He forced them to do it, and he handled his MC duties with panache, and he helped bring big interest back to the Globes years ago as it went up and down and had its travails. But
Tom, before we go, I saw that Joyce and I tied apparently among the editors with 8 on film predictions with 80% each. So congrats, Joyce.
Way to go.
We got the same
Congratulations, you
things
guys.
wrong.
We got the same 3 wrong. We did it. And we didn't even, we did changes, and we didn't even just copy each other.
No, but I would have gotten 2 more right if I just made those other 2 changes.
You should have made those changes.
I know.
I should have gone Boy in the Heron. I made
So
I made the keys for it, and I didn't do it.
Well, we still have 5 minutes.
Yeah. I can't change it now.
Okay, I got TV perfect, so I can't ask for more.
Yeah.
just ride that out. Okay. Well, all right. Well, it's time to say thank you for joining us. Thanks for giving us this fantastic insight. We're going to bid adieu to you, and we're going to bring in 2 other Gold Derby editors. Now, here we have David Buchanan and Charlie. Good to see you. So we talked before the show. Now it's after the show. I'm going to shut up. It's your turn to talk. Oh, let me introduce myself. I'm Tom O'Neill. We are all the Gold Derby gang, where we do predictions exclusively in a way. So I'm babbling. David, save me. How are the Globes tonight?
You're muted, David. Oh, thank you, Charlie. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought they were pretty good. I think the winners were, in some ways, surprising in the sense that we used to get so many shocks at the Globes, right? And I think with the exception of a few wins for maybe Anatomy of a Fall on the film side, a lot of these winners were the anticipated winners, which was nice in some ways. I think a lot of the winners, a lot of the awards tonight went for really deserving folks. Great speeches from a lot of the actors, some overdue, craftspeople. Christopher Nolan, Tommy, we're talking about the great speech he gave, finally getting a chance to give a speech at the Globes. That was a great moment. But yeah, I kind of missed a little bit of the unpredictability and the celebrities who've had a couple too many drinks and they never thought they would win and getting their name called and having to go up on stage. Those moments were so exciting. And this was a very polished show. I love that. I don't know what award show we're going to look to now for the kind of craziness. This was always kind of the crazy show. So, but good winners. I mean, from an awards perspective, a good crop of winners.
Well, they couldn't take any chances, David. I mean, everything is on the line here.
True.
This was the Golden Globes have near-death experiences over and over, been kicked off TV time and again for scandal after scandal, and now CBS has taken charge. PMC, our parent company, has taken charge. Dick Clark Productions, and there are a lot of people who are behind them now. CBS. This is the first time in 20 years that CBS has telecast, or more than that. That CBS has telecast the show. It was an NBC exclusive before, so it's a return. Charlie,
Turner had it. Turner had it for a while, didn't they?
Turner had the Globes.
Yeah, I think like TBS or TNT had the Globes for a little while.
Oh, okay.
Maybe 1 or 2 years. I don't know. That's just.
The Pia Zadora scandal was 1982, I think. Or 83. And so that's when the first time they got booted off the air. And was when they were on CBS. And then there were 2 additional times that they got in trouble and were yanked by NBC. And then the big uproar happened 2 years ago, or just last year, when it was disclosed that they had no black members, that a lot of this cronyism and apparent graft between them and the studios seems largely to be true. And so they had to clean house. They had to revamp the show. And so, like, to David's point about how just polished it was, that was really cool because, like Warren Beatty once said, the Oscars are business, but the Globes are fun. We miss those kooky moments.
And I'm with David on this. I did like the show. It was, I will say, I don't think it for me it was not. The host did not play a part in that. I think this just makes the case that the Globes should go back to their old format of just no host. It's a show that works without a host.
Yeah.
I think I don't know why they keep on doing this. Part of me thinks it must be because they're still. My guess is the only thing I can think of is there are still when they start the show, there are still people coming in from the red carpet, and they want to give those people a chance to get seated. Which that's their own damn fault for being late. That's what's happened to me so many times. So why should they be any different? Because they're stars? I don't think so. But I thought the presenters were pretty good. Even like the Will Ferrell, Kristen Wiig thing, I wasn't a fan of. But I was listening to it. What you listen to it, it was killing in the room, so it was working there. Yeah. And this is one of the first things. It's weird because I'm looking at the winners here, and all of them either, regardless of predictions, I like these winners. I can't find one that I'm like, this pisses me. Okay, maybe original song pisses me off a little bit, but that's a whole other thing. That's a whole other thing. And I'm just thankful that Taylor Swift garbage didn't win the box office thing because she's my arch nemesis. But
You're Moriarty.
But even with all of that, you couple that with last night, and I was looking at the 4 guest acting categories at the Creative Arts last night, and I thought they were all fantastic. All 4 were fantastic winners, and I'm like, am I just like, is something wrong with me that I'm actually enjoying all this, that I'm agreeing with them so much?
Right.
It felt very weird, but I really liked it. I loved seeing Justine Triet winning. I actually just talked to her on Friday. And she was lovely and it was great to see her. And she was, she was one of the people that you heard the shock of. That's one of the things that we love about the Globes is when those left field wins come out, is the shock of the recipient. But even someone who was predicted to win, like Io Edeberry, she was great. I loved her. You could hear her breathing, her heavy breathing, because she was trying to take in the whole thing. And then at the end, when she said, "And to all my agents and managers, assistants, thank you for answering my crazy emails." I was like, yes, that's a moment. That's a moment.
That was a good one.
And I think what's interesting is I think there are certain races that have become more interesting now. I think Best Actor obviously has become much more interesting with the Cillian Murphy win.
Yes.
I really hope that someone else wins something somewhere, like maybe whether it's Cooper or Giamatti, or my fantasy pick is Andrew Scott winning BAFTA, although I know that's a very tall order.
He's being taken more and more seriously as an actor.
Thank goodness. But that one has now become more interesting, and I just hope that we get that someone else wins somewhere else at some point soon, because that'll keep.
Do you think that can happen? Either of you guys think that can happen at SAG?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, SAG is one where they're willing to go, that has shown that they're willing to go. They're buck the trend, even when something makes sense. Like the whole Michael Keaton, Eddie Redmayne thing. That was where that whole race turned around when Eddie Redmayne won SAG. So I could absolutely see them doing that.
Yeah, and I was the only expert at Gold Derby to predict it, by the way.
Yeah.
No, I was.
Yeah, you were. And he called you afterwards.
He did. He telephoned me right afterwards, and he said, "You were the only one at Gold Derby who had any faith in me," and I just kept holding on throughout the race, because you got to realize, all of you viewers out there, that Hollywood pays very close attention to our predictions, and we tend to be 72 to 75% correct on average at any awards that we predict, and that we have 6 separate sets of awards, including not only the experts, but then these guys, the editors, and then we've got the top 24, the 2 versions of it, where if you won in the top 24 of last year's best accuracy scores and predictions, we invite you back to compete against us. And then there's the top 24 all-stars, which goes back several years, and whoever's had the best scores there. And then we combine them all into Gold Derby's official odds. And then there's a sixth set of predictions. If you don't like any of the others, you can just use the menu in those odds pages and just go for the users themselves. So,
and the other race I think is very interesting now is animated feature. Because Into the Spider-Verse really kicks. I mean, a lot of critics groups were awarding Into the Spider-Verse in 2018, but it winning the Globe was its first real big test. Like, can this really win over and be a real player in this for the actual Oscar? And it ended up just being part of that steamroll that it had. The fact that it was able to that The Boy and the Heron was able to pull this one off, although I don't know how much weight to give it, because while it is a big organization, it's still foreign journalists. So that does kind of make me, but I'm still kind of holding on to that my long shot prediction of Miyazaki getting nominated for director. So I'm very much hoping that this makes it very interesting, and I'm really hoping we can get another Miyazaki win for best animated feature.
I think it's possible. Yeah, go ahead, Tom.
No, good. follow-up.
No, I was going to say, I think it's possible. I think you're exactly right, Charlie, that this was the right like awards group to award that. Like I was predicting The Boy and the Heron for exactly that reason.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that translates, but it helps that it won here and it won early, you know, for its trajectory. I think it's on the right path. But
it probably would have helped more if Miyazaki had been there.
True. Because you know what? You really could have blinked and missed the award because nobody accepted it.
Wasn't one of the people in our thread like he thought that he had missed it and thought that Spider-Verse had won?
Yeah. It was like there was 3 minutes between that award being presented and the next one, including whatever the presenter's banter was going on. So it was really a blink and you miss it. But go ahead, Tom. I
both
interrupted
of you guys have done such an. Well, no, I'm glad you finished the thought and took it and took it in such a lovely way. Both of you guys do an excellent job interviewing lots and lots and lots of these award contenders for Gold Derby, and I want you both to just talk about individually about of these did you interview any of the nominees this year? Which ones did you like the most? And we pile on so many interviews with you. I've forgotten which you've done. Pardon me. But David, you first. Who did you interview among the Globe nominees? Any of them?
Yeah, the one that comes to mind immediately is Celine Song. I mentioned earlier in our pre-show that, you know, I talked to her and I told her not only how much I loved the film, but I went back, you know, the next day to see it again. It was so moving and powerful. But we had a great conversation about, I mean, you know, I was hoping she was going to win for screenplay. I thought there was an outside chance that Past Lives could win screenplay tonight. Unfortunately, it didn't. But I really, even more than her screenplay, I'm so kind of amazed. It's her directorial debut as a filmmaker, and her direction of the film is so confident, so self-assured, so beautiful, so precise. I hope she makes the Oscar, you know, the best director lineup. You know, a win obviously is not looking likely, but that was a great conversation. And you know, as you can see from my background, big fan of theater. We do a lot of coverage of Broadway at Gold Derby 2 and the Tonys. And, you know, she's a playwright. So it was fun to talk to her about, you know, her playwriting influences and the kind of touches in there about, you know, Nora being a playwriting student and wanting to be a playwright. So that was a very memorable chat. And also I'll just mention, I chatted with Ray Romano too, who was so good tonight. Like he needs to work with Kerry Russell on a comedy, a rom-com, something. They were such an unexpected pairing and so good. It was one of the best pairings of the night, I thought.
I think the only major one that I spoke to of the Globe nominees is Justine Triet of Anatomy of a Fall. I've also spoken to Joe Hisaishi, who was the nominated composer for The Boy and the Heron. I spoke to him the other day. And I also spoke to one of the senior people at Studio Ghibli, which was really fun because he also confided in me what his favorite Studio Ghibli animation movie is. So was very happy with that. I've spoken to some people from Zone of Interest. Most of my thing is and I talked to Sandra Huller a month or so ago. And that was interesting. And, you know, to talk to her. And when I asked her about, you know, the ambiguity of Anatomy of a Fall, she said she absolutely loved that. And that she actually didn't know the word ambiguous as an English language word until a couple of years ago. And she just loves the murkiness of that situation. And also, and she was just, and also to talk to her about Zone of Interest, you know, which was very emotional for her, especially as she's German. So to play someone who's the wife of the commandant of a Nazi concentration camp was something that was, you know, a very emotional thing for her to go through. It was really interesting.
She did a great job with it tonight on stage. Do you think she could get in for Best Actress at the Oscars?
Yes, I think she's a solid. I think she's a solid like. I had her, you know, in maybe like 2, but I'd say she's a solid 3 or 4.
Really? What's your take?
Yeah, I think she's. I wonder how close she was to winning tonight when Anatomy of a Fall won. I mean, I know some people were predicting her outright, which was a solid prediction. But when Anatomy won those 2 awards, I said, "Oh, that's really very likely to happen." So I wonder how close she was to winning tonight.
Yeah, when it won screenplay, that was the one that really took me.
Yeah.
Because I was just like, oh, the love for this movie is real. And then because after it won screenplay, I was like, well, it's gonna win non-English language film, obviously.
Yeah.
And sure enough, it did. What's also just interesting though is that to remember about this is that that win for Anatomy of Fall, a non-English language movie, is that France did not submit Anatomy of a Fall. I'm actually surprised it even met the qualifications because so much of that movie is in English. I actually thought that more than half of it was in English, so I thought it wasn't eligible. But so really, we don't have any more clarity about the international feature category. Conventional wisdom might say that it would be zone of interest, but because of the of how open that category is now with voting, I wonder. I still am like, I don't know how many, if it's going to be one that appeals to enough of that wide group of people.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you, it's certainly on the tongues of Hollywooders. The buzz when you go to events and just chit chat with award voters is really they're talking about it.
And to answer one of the questions I see from Todd McCarty about whether Society of the Snow could be zone of interest, I think it stands a legitimate. There's a legitimate shot there because Netflix is really pushing that hard. They're pushing it hard for international feature. I spoke with one of the publicists that's working on that, and they're pushing it for international and also in the music categories for Michael Giacchino's score. They're really pushing hard for that. So that I'd say that's a real player if it ends up making it into the final 5.
I didn't make my Golden Globe predictions. I'm so embarrassed. I kept saying, I'll do it tomorrow, early this week. I'll do it tomorrow. And even today, I was involved in both of these live telecasts that we've done today, that there was so much technical, just getting organized with our excellent producer, Aaron. Thank you very much, who's got this, and Chris Beecham, who's our managing editor at Gold Derby, who really managed to help us all get organized and do these shows. But I was just caught up. There are 100 hurricanes in my head and distractions going on. I kept pushing, doing globes off, and I said, "Oh, I can get them done before we close the predictions that are today at 4. I know I can." And the time just flew by. But so
what was your favorite win of the night, Tom?
Probably Giamatti. I'm just such a fan of the Holdovers. That's my favorite movie of the year, and I was surprised that no, I wasn't surprised by that. In a way, I was surprised that Poor Things, which I loved, and I certainly knew that the Globes often go, even in the comedy musical category for Best Picture, into something that's a little more artsy. And so I should have surrendered to that knowledge I have. But this was the New Globe, so I gave myself permission. I would have given myself permission to go for Barbie if I had been able to make my prediction there. But I was just enchanted by Barbie as a movie. It was such a nice surprise. I never thought they could pull it off, and certainly not pull it off that well.
I was as skeptical as you were on that one. I was incredibly surprised when I finally saw it.
And you know what else I was so pleased with this year? And of course, it got snubbed here, and it's going to be brutalized at the Oscars too. Is The Color Purple. I thought the Spielberg movie was excellent, and the Oscars were terrible to it. And I don't think the movie. I was very impressed by the musical adaptation. I didn't think it was possible, but each time that gets that story gets retold and refashioned, I think they've succeeded each time artistically. And the finale of The Color Purple, which is, this great chorus of a song around a tree, I think just lifts everybody out of their seats at the end of the screenings, the one that I attended anyway, and in a perfect way that a movie should. But they're just not going to take that thing seriously in the awards cycle, no matter what genre that story is retold.
Is it getting into SAG Film Ensemble? Do either of you have it in your top 5?
I think I might, and it's one where, because of the power of the cast, I still think it's a possibility, but I'll probably have to take it out at some point soon.
Because it's not.
I think if it hadn't had done as well its opening weekend, and like the audience response has been so good, and that's what SAG does really well, I think, is kind of reflect popular sentiment. So I think it's opened so strong. I do think it's got. I have it in my 5th for SAG ensemble, and I think I'll just keep it. I think had it not performed as well at the box office, but it's just been, like you said, Tom, I think it's really resonating now that people are seeing it. It missed some important things early on, but it might be a late breaker where it can kind of ride the wave of popular sentiment from opening Christmas through. At least
Bohemian Rhapsody just defied the naysayers. It just, it was, you were not, there were 2 movies recently in the awards cycle that we as journalists were not permitted to like. You weren't allowed to like Jojo Rabbit, and you weren't allowed to like Bohemian Rhapsody. And God help you if you were at an event, the way this groupthink goes through is ridiculous. And now you're not allowed to like The Color Purple among journalists and what the Cools say, And again, I just think I was nicely surprised that they did it again, told the story again and told it so well. I just think that it's like Dreamgirls, it has the most nominations for a movie that didn't get nominated for Best Picture. They're just not going to go there. But I would accuse these award groups of racism in a way, or the Academy, but then Hidden Figures, and that ends up doing well. A Female and The Help to be counterexamples of where they will take the leap, these award shows, and go to another ethnicity than the voting base, and another gender that's usually dominating the voting base. It was probably 10 years or more now, 12 years ago perhaps, that the LA Times did its expose on a real thorough analysis of the average Oscar voter, who of course was over 60, white and male, in almost 70%. And it was just an embarrassment to the Academy. And that's when they kept trying to diversify and be more sensitive even to like LGBT issues when Crash beat Brokeback Mountain. And in the Brokeback Mountain, I thought Crash, by the way, was an excellent movie. And I remember Michael Mustow and I saw it together. We just happened to be in this theater, or the screening. We were the only ones there during a blizzard in Times Square in New York. And then, if you know Michael personally, he rides his bicycle everywhere. And so here he is. We just came out of seeing Crash in New York, and it was nighttime, and the snow had piled up over his bicycle and the rest of it. And we were both just so admiring of the movie Crash. And there Michael got on his bicycle. It was pushing through the snow drifts to get home. And I said, what are you doing? But anyway, the Academy did not go for Brokeback Mountain, which had won absolutely every single Best Picture award that year. Like Nomadland did its year. I think it swept absolutely everything.
Pretty much.
But as awards night on Oscar night unfolded, and Brokeback won an acting award, and it won a directing and screenplay, which you need for Best Picture, of course. And then when the envelope got opened, there was Jack Nicholson's eyeballs popping out of his head.
Yeah, that look he had when after he said Crash, you see him turning to the side, and he just goes.
Yeah, but remember, they were openly gay bashing the Academy members.
Tony Curtis and Ernest Borgnine were Yeah, they were trashing. They were actively trashing just the idea of the movie.
Right.
Even though it's written by one of the great Western writers in Larry McMurtry.
I know. Ernest Borgnine, I think it was, even said, if John Wayne were alive today, he'd be rolling in his grave. I mean, what sense does that make? I'm not going to go see that movie about gay cowboys, God damn it. And he goes, this world's gone mad. He went off into just these tirades against the whole idea of this film. And it was a case, of course, of that. It was just like, I think I thought Dreamgirls was, most of the experts had, when we first made our first batch of predictions early on, most of us had Dreamgirls winning of the experts. And then it doesn't even get nominated for Best Picture, but gets everything else. And
I'll never forget that nomination morning because I was taking it all in. And it wasn't until about maybe 5 or 10 minutes after they had wrapped up the nomination ceremony where I said to myself, wait a minute. Wait. Condon's not in director, not in screenplay. It's not in, and it took me a minute. It took me several minutes to realize that had happened.
Bill Condon, who I know personally, he was crushed.
And it's a shame. Although I mean, for me, I'm like, you take out Babel, you put in Dreamgirls. That's a magnificent lineup.
Yeah, well, Babel was a fantastic movie. Yeah.
I'm a fan.
I
of
could
Babel.
not stand that movie.
Oh, it's great. Great performances in that. Oh my God.
Adriana Barraza is incredible in the movie. She is
brilliant.
Legit, like just otherworldly in that movie. The rest of that movie, and Brad Pitt, I actually think is really good in it too. But the rest of it, I was just
I loved it.
Yeah. I couldn't take it.
She has a small part in I don't know if either of you have seen Monica this year with Trace Lysette and Patricia Clarkson, but she's got a small supporting role in that, and she's really good in that. That's a great film.
That's in the Spirit screening room, so I'm gonna have to make. I've been meaning to check that movie out, so that just makes the case even more.
It's not a big part, but it's just nice to see her do anything. So it was nice to see her pop up in there.
No question.
What we're going to wrap up here in a minute or so, but first, before we go, what was your personal favorite couple top movies this year? As take your awards prognosticator cap off and just tell us what you really were rooting for, even if they didn't make it into the awards.
Well, I've said, so people are sick of hearing it, Past Lives was a favorite, The Holdovers was a favorite, and actually one that is not getting any awards attention, and I thought if anywhere the Globes would give it some recognition, the Nicole Holofcener, You Hurt My Feelings, which came out over the summer. Just a great little, slice of life picture with Julia Louis-Dreyfus. That was one of my personal favorites that, doesn't have legs going anywhere, but it should have. I mean, Holofcener always does great pictures.
It's always nice when you can say that, your favorite movie of the year was something that is being passed over, because it kind of makes you feel like I'm original.
Right.
And that's how I was last year, because my favorite movie last year was The Menu. This year, it's a bit more conventional. I loved Poor Things, Zone of Interest. Both were, I thought, incredible. All of Us Strangers. I think Andrew Haigh has a way of filming intimacy that's just different than any other director working right now. I think he's absolutely incredible with what he does. And I think it's the fact that it's this very small cast, but it works so well as an ensemble. I absolutely loved it. And I know I said Poor Things, American Fiction. I have not laughed like that at a movie in a while. I will say Taste of Things, the French submission for international feature. That was not a movie I should have seen at 9:00 on a Sunday morning, but that was the only time it was. Because oh boy, does that film make you hungry. And I also I know it's probably basic, but I really loved Oppenheimer. I have a weird fascination with nuclear destruction. It's probably because I live outside of DC, and I've actually gone on those websites where you can actually map, if a nuclear bomb is dropped somewhere, what is the destruction? And I've actually even read to the point where I'm like, oh, the wind pattern is good. So, even if I'm outside of it, the wind usually goes north, so it'll blow it all up to New York. So you'll get to deal with it, Tom.
I'm in Pennsylvania now.
And so I find that incredibly fascinating, and the ideas behind, creating the most destructive man-made weapon in the history of mankind. And I found it to be incredible. I remember seeing it in IMAX. I bought my ticket so late for that movie. I had to go out to Manassas, which is about like a 45-minute drive to the nearest IMAX that had reasonable seats. There were other IMAX screenings, but they were like front row. And I saw Interstellar in the front row of an IMAX, and I'm never doing that again.
That movie was a masterpiece, though.
Yeah, your opinion. But the way you feel everything moving, the way your seat shakes, and it really is incredible. And like you said, even though I had seen the pictures of Downey Jr., I still didn't recognize him right away when he comes on screen. And you also got people like David Krumholtz and Josh Hartnett, who I'm just like, oh my God, I had no idea he could be this good. And like you were saying with Nolan, I remember first rooting for Nolan. I remember 22 years ago rooting so hard for Nolan in the screenplay category for Memento, which is is such an amazing movie. I remember seeing the movie. I had to watch it like 3 times before I was completely clear on what happens in the movie.
I don't think you were supposed to do that. I think you were supposed to be left like a Monet picture or something, just trying to figure it out.
Yeah, that was his real like breakthrough. And I was just like, I just said after that, I'm like, I don't know who he is. And of course, that was only his second feature film, I think. But I was like, anything he makes, I am there. And I love that he's I love the chances he's been taking.
And his son has emerged too as a real filmmaker.
It's also, I think one of the reasons it took so long for him to break through, at least with the Oscars and the directing branch specifically, is because they probably think it's unfair that he is so good looking.
There may be
he looks like a Ralph Lauren model.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not fair. It's almost like Paul Rudd. It's like, you can't be in comedy and be this good looking. No, we don't allow this.
I will give my final thought, which is I've already talked about my favorite movies here, but I missed the industry press screenings for Killers of the Flower Moon, and so I could only catch up with it when it finally opened in theaters. And so I booked my ticket at a big screen theater, and I took an Uber over there. I live in Century City, and I have places in New York, LA, and Pennsylvania. So I took an Uber over to the theater, which is over near Farmers Market. And when I was so just mesmerized by Lily Gladstone's performance that it was because it was so internalized and through the eyes and the rest of it. And it really connected with me powerful. If you've ever walked home after a movie because you didn't want to break the spell, you just didn't. So I was just walking down the streets of LA, like 5 miles away. And all of a sudden, one of the most senior people in the whole FIC industry, Lynn Siegel, who's a one-time publisher of the Hollywood Reporter, and I worked with her at the Envelope at the LA Times, and she's now at the Wrap. She's an ad director, publisher type, and one of the greats of our industry. And she pulls her car over and goes, "O'Neill, what the hell are you doing?" She sees me walking down Fairfax or wherever I was, and I said, "I just saw the Killers of the Flower Moon." She said, "Is it any good?" I said, I think it's great. I'm not 100% sure. I'm just trying to work it all out. And she goes, "That's why you're walking? You don't want to lift?" And I said, "No, Lynn, it's okay." But actually, I had a colleague stop and just like, "What are you doing? Where are you going?" But that's the effect that movie had on me. That said, we will wrap up. Thank both of you. And we're going to thank Aaron again and Chris and everybody who pitched in. to make this a great day for the Globes and a great day for us and a great day for Gold Derby. Thanks you. So long.